So you want to run Facebook ads and start getting some leads in. Maybe you want some traffic to your website to fill out a form, or maybe you just want them to buy something directly from you without talking to you at all. Maybe you want them to send you a message through Facebook, but for some reason, your ad just isn't getting clicks. People aren't really engaging with it, and so you just feel like you're spending a lot of money without getting any results. Well, it's good that you're here. I'm going to try and give you some quick tips that should help point you in the right direction to start getting some results from your Facebook ads. But first, my name's Zach. I've been a software developer for the last 12 years. I've also been running a marketing agency named Braxter for the last 7, in which we've been able to generate over $13 million in revenue for our clients. The vast majority of that revenue was generated through Facebook ads. So just to reassure you, this is really normal. It's very hard to get everything right on your Facebook ads in the first attempt, and there are a lot of little bits and pieces that can really improve things, but it's an iterative process, so don't be dissuaded or think that it just doesn't work or it doesn't work for you. You can make it work over time. So the first thing that we'll get into is, while you're still learning how to get the ads working, and before you have something that we would deem as like a winning piece of creative, I would recommend just keeping your budget on the lower side, like maybe around $10 a day, just to get something going first. Then once you see it's starting to work, maybe you'll add on to that, maybe $20 a day, and scale up as necessary. You don't need to spend a whole lot of money for it to work at all. $10 a day should be fine, as long as you're not testing too many types of creative at the same time. Now, let's figure out what is the right campaign objective for your situation. You might have thought that you pick the traffic objective. For example, if you want people to fill out a form on your page for you to contact them, but that's probably not the case. So I would recommend that you really do read through the different objective types so that you don't get surprised later on by the results that you get. For example, traffic, it literally just means they will generate traffic. It doesn't mean high converting traffic. It doesn't mean that the people are gonna buy. So it just means people that will click on links and travel to pages and then look at the pages. So in your situation, maybe you want somebody to fill out your landing page lead form. In that situation, you should be choosing the conversion objective. So if you have that option chosen incorrectly, or you chose engagement or something, thinking that, oh, well, people who like my post a lot, they probably are going to be interested in my business, and then they're going to go to my page. I know it seems like it's logical, but Facebook is really, really specific with their objectives and types of things. So you want to be very specific with what you ask them for. You're not going to be able to really trick them and ask for traffic and as a way to get cheaper conversions. It just doesn't work that way. So just be straight up about it, that I want conversions. I want people to fill out my landing page, or I want them to buy the product from my Shopify store. The traffic is definitely cheaper when you choose things like traffic or something more general like that, but there's a reason why it's cheaper. It's not because they just forgot about it. It's because they actually do value, and advertisers also value the higher converting traffic. And so that's why everybody is bidding for those types of buyers. So it's not just that Facebook wants to charge you more, it's that everyone else is also willing to pay more. So you do need to bid for the right batch of people. If you're bidding too low, that means you're not getting the right kind of people. So really, really double check that you're selecting the thing that you want. But let's move on to another, and we'll assume that you've got that part chosen correctly or fixed now. The next thing would be your targeting type. Now, usually I don't actually recommend using interest-based targeting, and things can change a lot and very often in the Facebook targeting setup. Like they sometimes are removing options or adding new options. They're always going in the direction of wanting you to have very minimal input and just let them figure it out. Now, I wouldn't trust them with every choice, but in terms of the targeting, they're actually pretty good at finding the right audience for your product or service, as long as your creative is good quality. We'll get to what makes creative good quality or not in a bit, but when just starting out, you can leave things open And you can also even give suggested audiences. And so Facebook will try them out. And see, this can work just fine. Don't think that you need to restrict the audience down to a very small batch of people, thinking that it's going to be like a niche and so you might have higher conversions. You could, but it's kind of making a big assumption right off the bat. So it's best to just leave it as open as you can. Maybe give some suggestions if you have some ideas as to what your target demographic already is, and just let it run for a little while, especially when you're first getting started out. If you already have a lot of customer data that you could import as a custom audience, they call it, where they will basically take your list in and then try to find those people on Facebook, then that can help, get your account a little bit more targeted traffic. So you could maybe not target the exact custom audience that you've already imported, but make a lookalike audience of them, which is basically people that are similar to them. Just to give a little bit more helpful information, hopefully, the target audience that I would usually go for when I'm setting up an ad set would be something like 2 to 3 million people. Facebook ads tend to work pretty well with something around that size. Once you get a little bit more experience with how things are going for your ad campaigns, then you could try going a little bit smaller in the audience size. But especially when you're getting started out, I would try to stick around that 2 to 3 million size audience. Now, sometimes you could do those things, have the right objective set up, and then still you're not really getting much results, or maybe you were getting results and then it stopped working. What I would do in that situation is, before changing anything else, just try duplicating the ad set, meaning it just seems like an exact copy. Let that run for a little bit and then turn off the old one and see if the results aren't any better. What this does is that it starts to show it to a new slice of the audience that Facebook is going to show it to. Because even when you start running an ad to an audience of 100 million people, Facebook is not going to just continually go through the whole 100 million people. They take a segment out of it and then they market mainly to them. Also, just to give a little bit more detail, if you are not getting results for a few days, or let's say your ad doesn't work that well for a few days, that's not really a long enough time frame for us to make a decision off of. We want to be looking for trends. So if you've been running an ad for a month and then you have a bad 3 to 4 days, I would probably still leave it a little bit longer. I personally, and you could adjust this to your experience, but I would probably go based off of a week or two. I would try to get things going for at least a few months and then go based off like my trailing 14 to 21 days, and then adjust if it seems like there's just no turning around, duplicate, create a new one. And of course, just adjust to your experience. Your account could be very different than mine, but I'm just trying to give you the lessons that I've learned from my experience over running ads the last 7 years. So let's talk now about the creative. You say, Zach, no, my targeting is great. My objective is the exact correct one. I don't think that's the issue. Okay, then it might be your creative, but it could be, like I said in the last example, that the ad set just needs to be adjusted or refreshed by duplication. And that can then get your same creative showing to a different group of people, and it might take off that way. But you won't know, because this is a multivariate situation where any different combination of things could either work really well or work terribly, work a little bit. It could perform a whole measure of different ways. So try not to assume anything for good. It can change at any moment, and it could be any part that could change. But let's say that it is your creative, you want to test out different creative. Well, depending on your budget, you actually don't want to try out too many different combinations at the same time, because if you're not getting enough budget to each combination of creative, you're not going to get enough data back to make an accurate decision on which one to keep and which one to kill. You would always want to have your budget be a function of the number of creatives that you're testing. So for example, let's say you have 4 different ad creatives and this is a very low number. You want to have more creatives than that. But let's say you have 4, then you'd want to have at least $40 a day going to each one. So $10, $10, $10, $10. And that way it's spread somewhat evenly so you can figure out which one is doing well, which one is not. So I wouldn't recommend just, if an ad doesn't work, you just trash the whole ad and the copy. You might want to try tweaking the copy. You might want to try tweaking the ad. But be very granular when you are going through the analytics. Like if you see that just not many people are even liking the ad or not many people are clicking on it to even go through it, you have to really break down, is it the image that is not stopping them? Because if we think about the psychology of what happens when somebody chooses to interact or not with an ad, the thing that stops them from scrolling is the graphic, because that is the most obvious thing. Then they might read either the headline or the first line of the primary text just to see if they want to continue interacting with this. Maybe they thought that the image was interesting or the video was interesting, but the text will kind of carry them onto the next step. Now, if you have a very visual product, like let's say something pretty like a flower vase or something, then the image might be enough to just carry the ad without the text having to do much work. And that's always going to be the case with more visual products, but maybe then the text is the thing that will either confuse them or keep them going with the same momentum. Like maybe there's a discount code, or it's talking about how there's a sale, or it gives some additional details about the vase. So what would be a good image or a good video? Well, honestly, the rules on this are pretty fuzzy nowadays. But the thing that I've found works the best is just leading with your most interesting aspect, or just something that establishes that you are high quality. It doesn't correlate with production value anymore, unless it's part of your brand, and even that is a little bit murky. So I'll try to give a more helpful answer than that, because I know it could seem a little bit vague. But if you think about how people are on social media, right, they're not there to be advertised to. They're there to look at pictures of their friends, family, things that are interesting to them. Like if your ad doesn't even look like an ad, it just looks like a very natural, like a TikTok looking post or an Instagram reel looking post, then they might interact with it just because it seems like any other post on social media. So that wouldn't be like a very high production value post. But if you're going to go the route of high production value because you want to have an established looking brand, then you need to make sure that it's done correctly. You can't just make it in 5 minutes on Canva by yourself without actually putting much thought into it. What I'm trying to help you to understand is more so the process of how to figure out what the problem is with your specific creative. Because maybe if I was looking at your specific creative for your business, then I could dial down what's really the issue with this. Is it the ad? Is it the wording inside of the picture? Is it the wording in the primary text? What's the exact problem? Why is something just not, meshing well? But because I can't do that, I'd rather try to give you the tools so that you can do it for yourself and develop that mindset of being able to solve the problem. So you have to approach things, like I said, in that multivariate way. You have to, just like the whole campaign is multivariate, even the ad itself is multivariate. Like a combination of headline and image might not actually make sense. Some ads, they try to get a little bit too creative that they actually forget that they're selling a product. And that can work really long term, like for branding, if you just make everything really artsy. But sometimes people who like let's say a jeans ad, the people just want to see what the jeans look like when people wear them, or they want to read that it's like some special kind of denim, or it was handcrafted in Japan. They want to see that interesting thing. They might not want to just see like a Gucci looking ad and they can kind of tell that the person has jeans on. It might look really high production value and seem very fashionable, but maybe it doesn't match the brand values, and it's also just not practical for the person. Just like, let's say you were marketing some software, maybe you don't need to sell them on the values of the software. Maybe the ad could just be a quick video demo, like a 30-second video demo, and just anybody that is interested is gonna continue. You don't have to overthink it. That's usually the problem with the ads, is that people either overthink them or they kind of treat them like it's their company brochure. Like one example that I've seen in the past of kind of a bad quality ad was a ad for a water purification company, and they started trying to sell on how their business works. Whereas they would have just done so much better by selling on what the people actually care about, which is your water clean? Does your water have potential contaminants? Instead, they were just saying how we've done this for a very long time. It really helps the country and the city, and they're just all things that people don't really care about. Like, you're not selling the exciting or the dream outcome aspect of your product or service. So you really, if you can just dial down what is the ideal outcome for any customer who's going to buy my product, and then you can distill that into just a very quickly digestible ad format. Maybe it's a picture, maybe it's a video because it requires a little bit more explanation, or you want to pre-sell them. Like maybe it's something that doesn't lend itself to a picture, like it can't really be explained fully in a picture. And so you just have to pick which of the formats it would work best in, and ask yourself, if somebody had no idea, I couldn't explain anything else to them except what is in the picture or the video, would they be intrigued about the service? And you have to be really honest with yourself. And it can be hard to ask yourself this question because you have more context than they do. You have all the context. So it's kind of hard to delete part of your brain temporarily. So something that you could do as a test is show it to somebody who's not involved with your business and just ask them, what do you think that this company does? What do you get from the 5 seconds that you're reading this? And if they confuse you with your answer, like, well, how could they think that? It's not that they misunderstood. It's that you didn't explain it clearly enough. If somebody can understand clearly and simply from your ad, that's actually all that matters. It doesn't matter if they want to buy or not, because you are not trying to convince people. You are just trying to find people. You are trying to help anybody who would be interested in your service know exactly that, hey, this is what I do. So anybody who needs this, just come find me. Now, if you do want to convince more people, because let's say you've just fully saturated your market, which you most likely haven't, because nobody has saturated any markets. But if you do want to start branching out, that's more long-term branding. And so then you are kind of just educating people. You're bringing them down this funnel of customer awareness cycles. Like they start out as unaware, like they know nothing about this type of product or anything. And so you're going to bring them from totally unaware to the second level down. And I'll put a quick chart up from Google of the customer awareness cycles so you understand what I'm referring to. But basically it's just that they're not going to buy from you until they are fully educated and understand the problem and the product, your product, how it compares to other people, or just that it solves the problem. And then they're going to buy something from you when they're excited about solving this potential problem or this desire that they have in their lives. And so that's kind of the mental process that we need to approach this with if we're trying to actually get people to clearly understand what our product does and what our service does. The majority of the time, it is either one of those two things, like they're picking the wrong objective, or the ad is just very off in a different direction, kind of self-promoting in a way that is not interesting to people. And so if you can just get the messaging down, you're going to have a much easier time of getting results. Like, just as an example, I did an ad for a home decor company, and this ad worked very well for a very long time, and it's so stupidly simple that it's kind of annoying. But basically the product was a nice looking product, like it looked good on homes, and I was just trying to get them page likes, like Facebook page likes, for as setup for a future campaign. And all I said in the ad copy was, like, it had a video of the product in action, and then I just said, like our page if you think that this is cool. And that's all it had to be. Generated tens of thousands of likes and whatnot. And it's just quite hilarious that just by being clear, it got people to go ahead and do the action. And these weren't just people who had zero interest in the product. They also commented on the page and, would say very nice things and engage a lot. But it's just because the image or the video had already done the majority of the selling, they just needed a little bit of direction on what to do. And so sometimes it can be that simple. Obviously, if the video was terrible, then nobody would have even cared that much. But just clarity, and it just highlights as long as you get the clarity down and it's obvious, then people will go through it, because people do want to buy nice products and nice services if they know about them. People hate ads, right? But they don't really hate ads. They hate irrelevant ads. So if you can just get out of their way as soon as they realize that it's not for them, they will not be upset with your ads. The people that find you will actually be very happy with your ads. So again, clarity, simplicity, all of those things. But yeah, I think that should help you on your way in improving your ads. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, but I'll leave it there for today. Thank you for listening. Bye.